between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Indonesia. Hello, December.
Hello, Alma. I'm December Paras, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Indonesia today, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, with monitors briefly warning of the possibility of hazardous tsunami waves before lifting the threat.
The Duterte administration will stand neutral during the May 2022 national elections, President Rodrigo Duterte said on Monday.
That when it comes to the elections, government, the administration, will stand neutral, neither for or against.
And the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged China to cease aggressive actions in the Indo-Pacific, speaking during a visit to the region as Washington seeks to bolster alliances against Beijing.
The Commission on Elections on Monday denied the 3 motions to intervene on a petition to cancel the Certificate of Candidacy, or COC, of presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Indonesia on Tuesday, the U.S. Geological Survey said, as monitors warned of the possibility of hazardous tsunami waves. The USGS said the quake struck around 100 kilometers north of the town of Momere at a depth of 18.5 kilometers or 11 miles in the Flores Sea at 0320 GMT. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said hazardous waves are possible for coasts located within 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles off the quake epicenter. The USGS said the chance of casualties was low, while noting that recent earthquakes in this area have caused secondary hazards such as tsunamis and landslide that might have contributed to losses. Indonesia experiences frequent quakes and volcanic eruptions due to its position on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of intense seismic activity where tectonic plates collide that stretches from Japan through Southeast Asia and across the Pacific Basin. Among Indonesia's string of deadly quakes was a devastating in 2004, a 9.1 magnitude tremor that struck off the coast of Sumatra and triggered a tsunami that killed 220,000 throughout the region, including about 170,000 in Indonesia.
Now, here in the country, local disaster units sent residents in areas where Tropical Storm Rai, to be named Odette once it enters the Philippine area of responsibility, is expected to tear through this week, are told to prepare for its impact. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council said Monday night it is coordinating with regional counterparts on preparations for the storm that may hit the country on Thursday. People residing in the path of the storm are advised to take precautions and comply with safety warnings issued by the authorities. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, in its forecast Tuesday said the tropical storm is expected to make landfall by Thursday afternoon or evening over the eastern Visayas, Caraga regions. Rai was last tracked 1,380 kilometers east of Mindanao. It's expected to enter PAR Tuesday night and is forecast to reach the typhoon category by Wednesday. It is expected to pass through Visayas, Mindanao, and several provinces in the southern Luzon area. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken begins a Southeast Asian tour with a first stop in Jakarta, where he held talks with Indonesian President Joko Widodo and expressed support for Indonesia's G20 presidency, according to the foreign minister. First, let's listen in.
Dan tampak sekali komitmen Amerika Serikat untuk memperkuat kemitraannya dengan Indonesia, termasuk di bidang ekonomi. Sekretari Blinken juga menyampaikan komitmen untuk bermitra dengan Indonesia dalam bidang investasi infrastruktur. Dalam pertemuan, Amerika Serikat juga menyambut baik keinginan Indonesia untuk berpartisipasi dalam supply chain bidang kesehatan. Sekretari Blinken juga menyampaikan dukungan terhadap keketuaan G20 Indonesia.
After the meetings, Marsudi underlined the country's willingness to cultivate good relations with all its members. On Tuesday, Blinken will deliver an address on the U.S. approach to the Indo-Pacific, a key U.S.-China battleground. U.S. President Joe Biden's strategy doesn't differ fundamentally from that of former President Donald Trump's government, insisting that the region should remain free and open in the face of rising Chinese aggression. After Indonesia, Blinken heads to Malaysia and Thailand. In his meetings, he will highlight what the U.S. administration says is the importance of Southeast Asia in U.S. foreign policy. He will also focus on strengthening the regional security infrastructure in response to PRC, or Philippine Republic of China, or the People's Republic of China bullying in the South China Sea, according to Daniel Quittenbrink, the Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, telling this to reporters ahead of the trip using the abbreviation for the People's Republic of China. Quittenbrink said, "We oppose any actions by the People's Republic of China or any other actor designed to destabilize the region."
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Tuesday urged China to cease aggressive actions in the Indo-Pacific, speaking during a visit to the region as Washington seeks to bolster alliances against Beijing. Take a look.
The goal of defending the rules-based order is not to keep any country down. Rather, it's to protect the right of all countries to choose their own path, free from coercion, free from intimidation. It's not about a contest between a U.S.-centric region or a China-centric region. The Indo-Pacific is its own region. Rather, it's about upholding the rights and agreements that are responsible for the most peaceful and prosperous period this region and the world has ever experienced. That's why there's so much concern from Northeast Asia to Southeast Asia and from the Mekong River to the Pacific Islands about Beijing's aggressive actions, claiming open seas as their own, distorting open markets through subsidies to its state-run companies, denying the exports or revoking deals for countries whose policies it does not agree with, engaging in illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing activities. Countries across the region want this behavior to change. We do too. That's why we're determined to ensure freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, where Beijing's aggressive actions there threaten the movement of more than $3 trillion worth of commerce every year.
President Joe Biden's administration is trying to reset relations and reassert its influence in Asia after the turbulence and unpredictability of a Donald Trump era. Blinken also said Washington wants to ensure peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. U.S.-China tensions have soared over self-ruled democratic Taiwan, which China claims as its territory and has vowed to retake one day by force if necessary. Blinken is seeking to highlight Southeast Asia's growing importance to U.S. foreign policy on the trip, even as his administration has to contend with myriad other crises from Iran to Russia. Countries in the region face an increasingly tough task of trying to maintain good relations with both Beijing, a key trading partner, and Washington, vital to maintaining the region's security. Russia is also trying to assert its influence in the region.
In other news, the Duterte administration will stand neutral during the May 2022 national elections And President Duterte said this on Monday night. In a pre-recorded talk to the people, he made this assurance while giving a recap of his participation in the Summit for Democracy organized by the United States from December 9 to 10. Again, let's listen in.
At this early, I'd like to not just magbigay lang ng payo that when it comes to the elections, government, the administration will stand neutral. Neither for or against kami, kalaban o kasama sa partido. We will participate in the exercise of that right, but we will see to it that there will be no terrorism about buying at intimidation and everything that would put a hindrance to an honest election.
Meanwhile, Duterte reiterated that he continues to regard China as a good friend, even if some do not share his sentiments. He, however, clarified that the Philippine sovereign rights over the West Philippine Sea would not be compromised, even if China is a country's friend. Let's watch this.
Of the pandemic, na wala pa tayong bakuna noon. And I'd like to remind everybody that when everything was down for us, it was China. For whatever really is masabi nila about the relations about Philippines and China. I would maintain that we are good friends and they were the first one to give us the vaccines. Yung issues dyan sa West Philippines, ibang issue yan. At ibang issue na itong pagkakaibigan natin sa kanila.
Meanwhile, President Duterte also said as he steps down in June next year, it will be his highest honor to turn over the reins of power to his successor. Again, let's listen in.
Lastly, I said that as I step down in June 2022, it will be my highest honor to turn over the reins of power to my successor, knowing that in the exercise of my mandate, I did my best to serve the Filipino people.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, on Monday denied the 3 motions to intervene on a petition to cancel the Certificate of Candidacy, or COC, of presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. In a 13-page order, the Paul Body Second Division junked the motions for intervention separately filed by Romel Bautista and others, Reynaldo Tamayo Jr. and others, and by the Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, or PFP. In connection with the petition filed by Christian Buenafe and others, the COMELEC also said the motion for intervention filed by Bautista's group, motions to intervene and admit attached answers in intervention filed by Tamayo and others, and the motion for leave to intervene with the motion to admit attached answer intervention filed by PFP were not admitted and therefore treated as mere scraps of paper. The Paul Body said Bautista and others filed the petition in intervention 33 days after Marcos filed his COC, which is beyond the mandatory 25-day period prescribed in Section 78 of the Omnibus Election Code. It said allowing the petitioners to intervene could also trigger other interveners to file their own motions for interventions that would require the COMELEC to first resolve these motions before resolving the main case. After deciding on the 3 petitions, the Second Division said it would no longer entertain future motions for interventions and or petitions in intervention or answer in intervention on the case.
We go now to Malaysia. Companies, government agencies can be fined if found to have violated COVID rules. We have an update coming in live from Kuala Lumpur. Alfred Balmes joins us live. Hello, Alfred.
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Here in Malaysia, companies, factories, and government agencies violating COVID-19 standard operating procedure can be compounded up to 1 million Malaysian ringgit under proposed amendments to be tabled next Thursday. The Health Ministry Khairi Hamaluddin said the increase in the compound was among some of the proposed amendments to the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act 1998 to be tabled in Dewan Rakyat. He added that based on assessment, the compound could be even higher for repeat offenses. Currently, the maximum amount that can be imposed on errant companies and factories is 50,000 Malaysian ringgit. For individuals, the maximum amount of compound will remain at 10,000 Malaysian ringgit. Based on the current situation involving home quarantine implementation and so on, the proposed amendments will also involve matters such as installation of surveillance devices. Khairi said the amendments were crucial in terms of enforcement, as this would involve the delegation of power to allow enforcement to be carried out, not only by officers from the Health Ministry, but local authorities as well. The amendments, he said, would also involve clear guidelines so that there would be no issue of power abuse, adding that the move was for future-proofing to affect behavioral changes in the community. He added that the move also seeks to refine the control of infection diseases for more effective and efficient management. The ministry takes a firm stand in ensuring public safety by implementing efforts to control the COVID-19 pandemic, and Malaysians should continue to comply with the prescribed standard operating procedure. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much for that update, Alfred. Do take care and looking forward for more updates coming out of Malaysia. Stay tuned. We will stay tuned.
You take care too, Alma. Live reporting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is Alfred Balmes. We live in interesting times.
And back in the Philippines, exactly 2 weeks after announcing that he is pulling out of the presidential race, Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo has officially withdrawn his candidacy at the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, office on Manila Tuesday morning. Without fanfare, Go personally submitted his statement of withdrawal before the poll body's law department. The document was received at 10:46 in the morning, COMELEC records show. Go, who went on his own to the COMELEC office, said he felt that it was the right time to file his withdrawal. Not even his party, the PDP Laban, knew that he was filing the withdrawal on Tuesday. Asked who among the presidential contenders he will support in the May 9, 2022 polls, Go said someone who can continue the programs of President Rodrigo Duterte. Last month, Go announced his withdrawal from the May 2022 polls. He is the standard bearer of the ruling party. To recall, he originally filed his COC for vice president, but on November 13, he withdrew his first COC and fled or filed a new one seeking for the highest post in the country, substituting Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa.
And the news continues here in ASEAN in Focus. December and I will be back right after this.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
This week, we are going to do the chicken series. At meron ako sorpresa sa inyo dahil meron na akong guest ngayon. Ina Asisio. Yay!
Hi! Hi, Mother!
Ayan, pinahiwa ko po. So, kayo na pong bahala. Kung siya po yung tagaluto nyo, kayo na pong bahala. Shape ang pipiliin nyo. Lahat ng shape ginawa po niya. Buti na lang kami kakain ito.
Back here in the country, the National Capital Region is now with very low risk classification for COVID-19, with only 91 new cases reported per day from December 6 to 12. That according to the Octa Research Group on Monday. An Octa latest report said the incidence or average daily attack rate, or ADAR, decreased to less than 1 at 0.64 per 100,000 individuals, while the reproduction number was very low at 0.39. It added that NCR's positivity rate is 0.9%. The 13 local government units, or LGUs, in the NCR classified as very low risk include Pateros, Caloocan, Las Piñas, Mandaluyong, Parañaque, Marikina, Pasig, Navotas, Valenzuela, San Juan, Manila, Pasay, and Taguig. Among the 13 LGUs, Pateros logged a 100% growth rate with no new infections recorded and a 20% healthcare utilization rate, or HCUR. Meantime, the 4 other LGUs in the region were classified low risk due to their HCURs ranging from 31 to 37% and intensive care unit utilization rate, or ICUR, ranging from 33 to 61%. The 4 LGUs are Muntinlupa, Quezon City, Malabon, and Makati. Muntinlupa logged the highest ICUR at 61%.
A lawmaker on Monday urged the Department of Education to provide teachers with special risk allowance as the Philippines started its pilot run of face-to-face classes in selected areas amid the coronavirus disease. In filing House Resolution 2410, Marikina City Representative Stella Kimbo said teachers are clearly at risk of contracting COVID-19, especially now that the DepEd plans to expand face-to-face classes early next year. Kimbo said a risk allowance would allow teachers to spend more on protective equipment and pay for medical bills should they get sick in the line of duty. She said she received reports that some schools require teachers to sign a waiver before being allowed to teach face-to-face classes. Kimbo also urged the Department of Health to prioritize the teachers for booster shots.
In other news, Brunei will enter the endemic phase of its COVID-19 recovery plan on Wednesday, December 15, loosening remaining restrictions on public life, according to the Scoop.net. In a televised address, His Majesty Sultan Haji Hassan Al Bolkiah said the decision to move forward was based on scientific data and analysis conducted by the relevant authorities. The Sultan also said that this epidemic cannot be completely eradicated in the near future. But this is just a prediction, and every prediction is not necessarily accurate. The modalities of lifting remaining restrictions is expected to be announced in a Sunday afternoon press conference chaired by the Health Ministry. The government previously announced a gradual lifting of restrictions outlined in its COVID recovery plan, where full reopening of public spaces and international travel would be allowed to resume in the endemic phase. Brunei's infection trend has been on a downward trend since late October, with just 150 COVID cases recorded last week compared to an all-time high of 1,880 in mid-October. A total of 87% of the population is now fully vaccinated.
About 150,000 students of 9th and 12th grades in Ho Chi Minh City have returned face-to-face learning on December 13 after taking online learning for 7 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Director of the Municipal Education and Training Department, Nguyen Van Hu, was quoted as saying that the department sent 5 working groups out to inspect the trial physical learning program. He added that if a positive case is detected in class, offline learning will be converted into online learning. However, the director recommended schools and teachers not to be worried of possible occurrence of positive cases, as majority of students have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Statistics showed that as of Monday, about 88,000 students of 9th grade and 66,000 others of 12th grade got their parents' permission for physical study, accounting for 88%.
New evidence compiled by the World Health Organization and the World Bank shows that the COVID-19 pandemic is likely to halt 2 decades of global progress towards universal health coverage. The organizations also revealed that already before the pandemic, more than 500 million people were pushed or further pushed into extreme poverty because they have to pay for health services out of their own pockets, and that the pandemic is likely to make the situation worse. The findings are contained in 2 complementary reports launched on Universal Health Coverage Day, highlighting the devastating impact of COVID-19 on people's ability to obtain health care and pay for it. In 2020, the pandemic disrupted health services and stretched countries' health systems beyond their limits as they struggled to deal with the impact of COVID-19. As a result, for example, immunization coverage dropped for the first time in 10 years, and deaths from tuberculosis and malaria increased. The pandemic also triggered the worst economic crisis since the 1930s, making it increasingly difficult for people to pay for care. There is no time to spare, said Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, WHO Director General. He said all governments must immediately resume and accelerate efforts to ensure that every one of their citizens can access health services without fear of the financial consequences. And this means strengthening public spending on health and social support and increasing their focus on primary health care systems that can provide essential care close to home.
Greater investment in non-communicable diseases like diabetes could save the lives of 7 million people by 2030 and also reduce the impact of COVID-19, the UN Health Agency said on Monday. 7 out of 10 deaths globally are caused by these preventable illnesses, which also include heart disease, cancer, and respiratory sickness, the World Health Organization said. Some 85% of the premature deaths caused by these non-communicable diseases happen in low and middle-income countries. This is a terrible and economic toll, especially on countries that can least afford it, said World Health Organization Global Ambassador for NCDs and Injuries, Michael Bloomberg. In a message to health authorities in 76 developing countries, the WHO said that if they spent $1 more on prevention, they could see a seven-fold return on that investment by 2030. That's 230 billion. These measures include campaigns to lower tobacco and alcohol consumption and prevent cervical cancer. But World Health Organization's recommendation is to implement a combination of measures at the same time for maximum impact.
In other news, Bangladesh authorities demolished about 1,000 shops belonging to Rohingya in camps, according to an official, with a rights worker saying the move would have a huge impact on refugees' livelihoods. About 850,000 Rohingya are packed into 34 camps across the country, most of whom fled a 2017 military clampdown in neighboring Myanmar that the United Nations says could be genocide. Bangladesh has been praised for taking in the refugees, but rights groups criticize the authorities for restrictions in the camps and their controversial relocation of thousands of Rohingya to a flood-prone island. Bangladeshi camp officials, armed with excavators, hammers and shovels, bulldozed the shops in several camps in the Cox's Bazar area on Thursday and Friday, leaving shell-shocked Rohingya shop owners scrambling to salvage their goods. One international rights group researcher who monitors the situation in the camps said authorities were demolishing the shops to pressure the Rohingya to agree to relocate to the controversial Bhasan Char Island in the Bay of Bengal. Bangladesh has so far relocated close to 19,000 Rohingyas to Bhasan Char.
And the news continues in ASEAN in Focus after this short break.
Iba't ibang sakuna at kalamidad ang nararanasan ng bansa. Kapag may banta ng panganib, kailangang maging alerto at kung kailangang lumikas ay magtungo sa ligtas na lugar. Bilang paghahanda sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, mahalaga na may gobag na dadalhin ang pamilya. Narito ang dapat na nilalaman ng gobag ng isang pamilyang handa. Mahalagang dokumento sa selyadong lalagyan, flashlight, kandila, posporo at silbato, radyo na may bago at ekstrang baterya, first aid kit kasama ang panlunas sa lagnat, LBM, sugat at iba pa. Ang mga gamot na regular na iniinom ng pamilya. Magagamit para sa mga sanggol, bata, matatanda at may kapansanan, pera at mga barya. Pagkain na madaling ihanda, di na kailangang lutuin at sapat para sa 3 araw. Inuming tubig sa saradong lalagyan at sapat para sa 3 araw. Telepono, power bank at charger. Lubid, lumang dyaryo, matitibay na lalagyan, damit, kapote, bota at mga sanitary supplies, sleeping bag o banig at mga kumot. Suriin ang mga laman ng gobag kada 3 buwan at palitan ang mga laman nito na malapit nang masira. Ilagay ang gobag sa lugar na madali itong makita at makuha sa oras ng sakuna.
Welcome back. The ASEAN Development Bank, or ADB, has approved a 250 million loan to help the Philippine government secure additional coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 vaccine supply to boost the health security of Filipinos and ensure a safe and steady economic recovery. The assistance will allow the government to purchase 14 million additional doses of COVID-19 vaccines for eligible children and booster shots for adults. ADB Principal Social Sector Specialist for Southeast Asia, Sakiko Tanaka, said the Philippines has continuously enhanced its capacities for testing, tracing, isolating, and treating COVID-19 cases, and vigorously pursued COVID-19 inoculation for its population. The project, the second health system enhancement to address and limit COVID-19 under the Asia-Pacific Vaccine Access Facility. Additional financing will be co-financed by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank.
The Department of Finance, or DOF, Secretary Carlos Dominguez III is optimistic that regulators and the banks that have clients who reported experiencing hacking attacks on their accounts in recent days are now taking appropriate actions to address the issue. In a Viber message to journalists, Dominguez said he is very aware of the complaints of many depositors and have raised the issue to officials of concerned banks as well as the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas as early as 2 weeks ago. Dominguez also disclosed that as early as 18 months ago, all the government financial institutions embarked upon a program to strengthen all their cybersecurity defenses in anticipation of precisely this type of criminal activity. Over the weekend, clients of the C-led Banco de Oro posted on social media that they are having problems accessing their accounts online, while some even claimed unauthorized transactions. BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno earlier said monetary authorities were monitoring the developments and are in close coordination with BDO as well as the Union Bank of the Philippines to ensure that remedial measures are being undertaken. He also said BSP will do everything to ensure the safety and integrity of the financial system as well as the protection of financial consumers.
A popular Vietnamese tourist city has pledged to phase out selling cat and dog meat, officials said Friday, a first in a nation where some consider the animals a delicacy. An estimated 5 million canines are consumed every year in Vietnam, the second highest in the world behind China, with some believing eating the meat can help dispel bad luck. Authorities in HOI, an historic trading port and World Heritage site, signed a deal with animal rights group Four Paws International, promising to phase out sales and consumption of cat and dog meat. Vice City Mayor Nguyen The Hong said, "We want to help promote animal welfare through rabies eradication, phasing out the dog and cat meat trade, and making the city premier destination for tourism." Julie Sanders from Four Paws International said it was a watershed moment that might set an example for other places in Vietnam. A national poll commission by the animal rights group this year found only an estimated 6.3% of 600 Vietnamese surveyed consumed the four-pawed creatures, with 88% supporting a ban.
In other news, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, clarified that it has no programs or financial assistance being implemented online or through social media platforms. Now, this as the DSWD received a report on Facebook page DSWD registration, posing as an accredited financial aid conduit. A bogus Facebook page, which is circulating online, posted a status asking the public to register through a link in order to receive 10,000 pesos financial assistance, according to the DSWD in a news release. The official DSWD Facebook account is at DSWD Serves. That can be accessed via facebook.com DSWD Serves, and which has over 1.1 million followers. The government agency uses the platform for announcements and updates on its various services and programs. In June, DSWD also disowned Facebook accounts DSWD Registration and DSWD SAP News Update that offered ayuda or assistance. Secretary Rolando Bautista was likewise the target of the bogus Sec Rolando Bautista for La Union Provincial Governor account back in October. DSWD is already taking appropriate action and investigating fake posts. The DSWD asked the public to practice caution when seeing unrealistic offers online and to report similar concerns to hotline 8888.
DTI Philippines Secretary Ramon Lopez discussed the Global Business Forum ASEAN 2021 and bilateral regulations with United Arab Emirates at the Expo 2020 Dubai. Let's take a look.
Well, this is a very important event as far as we're concerned, because we are now in the process of trying to strengthen our business relation, establish stronger trade, investment, economic ties with UAE. And we believe also in the progress that Dubai is making. We're part of an active part of Dubai Expo. We have a very beautiful Philippine pavilion. I am also tasked as the Commissioner General of the pavilion. And at the same time, on the side, we're fortunate to meet my counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Trade, to discuss possible partnership in terms of establishing a joint commission on economic and trade cooperation between Philippines and UAE. So it's a bilateral thing that will lead up, hopefully, to some kind of a comprehensive economic partnership agreement down the road.
Under the patronage of His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai, and hosted at Expo 2020 Dubai, GBF ASEAN Open Dialogue between leaders from Dubai and the ASEAN region in business, government, and finance. In December 2021, the Dubai Chamber of Commerce launched GBF ASEAN to push the boundaries of interregional trade between Dubai and Southeast Asia and to explore the changing dynamics, examine opportunities, and increase business and investment.
Meanwhile, the Business Mirror just reported that the U.S. State Department has extended the invitation for President Duterte to attend the special U.S.-ASEAN Summit in Washington, D.C. next month. According to the Department of Foreign Affairs, or the Philippine DFA, the preparation for the special U.S.-ASEAN Summit has been discussed during the meeting between Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. and the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland. The DFA did not elaborate on the specifics of the meeting. A few weeks ago, news reports from Hanoi quoted sources as saying that the U.S. is proposing for the summit to be an in-person meeting among the heads of states of ASEAN and President Joe Biden sometime in the third week of January next year. The proposed U.S.-ASEAN Summit will propel the pivot of the U.S. foreign policy back Asia under the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which will start next year. As always, December, I forgot to greet you on your birthday, last December 1. A super belated happy birthday to you.
That's okay. But we would like to greet actually our Chief Bureau from the District of Malaysia. Yes, Miss Ruby Tinawin. A very happy birthday to you, ma'am.
Happy birthday, Ruby. Hey, the earthquake, did you feel it? The earthquake over there, that was a strong one, a 7.3 earthquake.
Yes. Yeah, but actually in my place we didn't really felt it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But there were no casualties. There were no actually. I tried to look at it, but there were no deaths involved for the earthquake.
Yes,
that just recently happened.
And the tsunami warning was lifted, so that's good news.
Yes.
But
Thank you so much, Ms. Alma. Yes, the residents here, the local, also in the city of Jakarta, were warned to take precautions. And thank you, Ms. Alma, for today.
Thank
and that's
you
the latest
also.
news in the dynamic ASEAN region. I'm December Paras of EBC Indonesia Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
I know you're a busy woman. Thank you so much, December, and I'll see you back next week. Thank you very
Next
much.
week.
Yes. We'll see you back tomorrow here on ASEAN in Focus. Same time, same place. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.
Napapansin ba ninyo lumiliwanag ang mundo pag